we interrupt this program to bring you Courage, the Cowardly Dog Show, starring Courage, the Cowardly Dog!
You're listening to That's Pretty Dark,
the podcast where we talk about all of the entertainment that scared us as children
and still haunts us as adults. So grab your flashlight and join us as we take a frightfully nostalgic look over our shoulders
and under our beds
and in our closets.
And together we'll realize, well, that's pretty dark.
Pretty dark.
It's no good. The dialogue is terrible. The direction is strange, and there's no nudity.
So there's nothing.
And I'm like, give me at least something.
There's no redeeming qualities.
No boobies. Nothing. You got to give me something to keep coming back.
Clearly, y'all, we have our summer activities cut out for us.
You know what I'm doing?
You're watching slashers and
looking for love in all the wrong places.
That's right. Absolutely. Do you know what else that people could do with their next few weeks if they're so inclined?
What's that?
They could enter our giveaway on Instagram.
Wow. Just setting them up, knocking them down.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Listener, if you're listening prior to July 21st, 2023, we have a giveaway that's currently active on our Instagram page. So you can go there and see all of the details in a post that we made. A very stylized photo shoot. Christian and I had a lot of fun making it feel like a summer camp.
You know how we do.
Stuff that we've covered over the past few years, items from those things, as well as a bunch of 90s adjacent, we'll say, candies. So
yeah, buddy.
If that is something that you're interested in, make sure that you get over to our Instagram before that July 21st date, because we're announcing a winner on July 22nd.
It's a good word.
Also, speaking of Instagram, Christian and I did something that has been terrifying to us in the past, and we joined you all on Instagram Live.
Yeah,
recently,
we did.
For the first time ever.
That was fun.
I thought it was really fun. I was shocked.
We didn't really think we'd be able to do a very good job, but then you guys made us feel so welcome.
Yeah, guys, we, if you didn't know, have severe social anxiety. So that's something that's always plagued us. Like, I don't know if we'll be able to do that. And we did, and it was really fun. Like, the people that joined, you guys had really fun questions, and you care about the stuff that we care about, and we just appreciate you and love you.
It was a good time. We'll do it again.
But yeah, next time we'll try to like make it more official and announce it and everything. It kind of came from Christian and I hanging out and saying, hey, should we just hit this button and do this thing?
Oh, you want to see what this button does? Oh, shit.
And it turned out well for once in our lives. So.
We're live on the internet. Speaking of being official and all kinds of other stuff, you're listening to That's Pretty Dark.
Ah, yes.
My name's Christian.
My name's Kaylin.
And we're going to keep the summer fun going.
Yeah, honestly, this is a really fun summertime episode. It just feels that way. It may just be because we're trying to immerse ourselves in that vibe.
Is it because of the like woodland cryptid creatures and the hot, the word hot being in the other episode title?
That is what it's about. Mm-hmm.
That is how
Nailed
I feel.
it.
I've been a hothead. I've been a real hothead recently.
Just recently?
Oh.
No,
whoa.
Kidding. Joking.
Shots fired.
So today, if you hadn't picked up on it yet, we will be jumping into the lore, pop culture, and inspiration around episode 3, season 1, episode 3 of Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Well, daggone.
Courage meets Bigfoot / Hothead.
Mm-hmm.
So as usual, the air dates, they were all over the place. But the fandom wiki says that a sneak peek of this episode, I don't know what that means exactly, aired on August 21st, my birthday, in 1999. And the episode premiered later on November 26th. And the November date is the only one I could find for Hothead. So I'm thinking maybe Bigfoot premiered as a sneak peek or whatever, and then they put them together and it aired on the 26th of November.
That's cool. I wonder why that one.
I don't know. I mean, probably because Bigfoot is such a recognizable figure in legend, lore, and myth. So
kind of a ubiquitous type thing.
We'll talk all about that very soon.
I'm excited to get into it.
So yeah, like I said, first up is Courage Meets Bigfoot. It was written by Irvin S. Bauer, who wrote several of the previous episodes that we've talked about. And I'm going to hit you with a fandom wiki summary this time, just to change it up for a change of pace.
All right.
Courage discovers a hungry Bigfoot scavenging his house. Fear turns to friendship, and Courage must protect his Sasquatch buddy from Eustace and his angry mob.
Dude, that mob, though.
Right? We'll talk all about it. It's more than I thought it would be in terms of like intensity.
Mob More like blob.
Blob. That's a better
More
word
like
for it. Yes.
amorphous blob.
Which is how we should really think of mobs, it turns out, in our culture. But we'll get there soon.
The animation was telling.
So the episode begins with a familiar scene for most of us. The Bags are enjoying an evening of television in their living room. It's honestly one of the more comforting, normal moments for this show so far, and in general for me as a person. Ever since I was little, I've always thought there was something really nice about passing the houses in my neighborhood or around town and seeing that cozy flicker in every other window
Just
of a television.
Going up to their windows and peeking through the curtains and the
through,
blinds.
trying to see what they're watching. And
if you drive through the neighborhood near me, you know the one on the hill, their windows are just open.
It's
they love to
weird.
show off all the insides because they're all rich.
Sure. I don't have that kind of money. I don't have open window kind of money.
No, yeah, I do like the glow.
I like it.
But isn't it a horror movie? They're like screams on the TV.
There are screams, but they are still seemingly enjoying it. So
I'm not saying it isn't cozy. That's what I'm doing every night this summer.
It doesn't mean that it's not cozy.
Horror movies and blueberry pie. Sign me up.
Sure.
Hell yeah.
Of course. Invite us over, Muriel and Eustace. We would love to be there.
That sounds like a great time.
Inevitably, though, Courage notices some spooky sounds and a threatening shadow while he's enjoying a slice of said blueberry pie and a big old glass of milk.
Dude.
The milk carton is bigger than Courage himself.
Just need an excuse to drink the milk.
I was almost kind of surprised that they didn't put just like a missing, like even if it was just like lorem ipsum gibberish on the side of the milk carton. I'm surprised they didn't have like missing or something.
How dark would that be?
I mean, hey, I've seen darker things on the show.
I mean, it'd be great. I would have not hated to see that. I mean, I hate to see it, but like I kind of
you hate to see it, but it's part of the culture at the time. So these sounds prompt some famous Courage charades. At first, he looks like a dinosaur, like a T-Rex, but then you realize he's Godzilla, destroying everything in his path.
He's chomping.
And
He's chomping.
with so much sweet sincerity, it hurts. Muriel asks,
What is it, Courage? Help!
and follows him to the door to find their trash bins in disarray.
Oh, it's just the raccoons. They must be hungry.
It's just the raccoons.
Muriel reasons that it's just some hungry raccoons, as all of our parents have when things would go bump in the night.
That was no raccoon.
And of course, this show is directly responsible for me and probably a lot of other millennials being quite skeptical of our parents' or caregivers' rationalizations.
I've seen the raccoons in my neighborhood, though. They're little tyrants. They're
fair.
cute as hell. They come scare you in out of the sewers, go and they go all the way up to, well, my neighbors, when they used to put food out for the neighborhood cats.
Yeah, they'd go
It's a
get
bad
it.
move. Don't do that,
Yeah,
people.
I know.
The raccoons, though, would go up and they would sneak and they'd carry it back to the sewers. The little bandits.
I've seen a whole family just bebopping along the streets of my neighborhood.
They're
like
cute.
a whole family. And they're adorable.
Don't
but
hurt them.
Don't hurt them, but also I don't want to come into contact with them because, the rabies. and
They won't do
such.
anything. No. They won't do anything to you.
So Muriel retreats to the kitchen where she pulls a pie out of the oven and she says it's dessert for tomorrow. I guess they're having pie 2 nights in a row. I'm sure Christian
Why
won't
not?
complain.
Again, sign me up.
Muriel sets it on the open windowsill to cool.
And this is where courage is you.
This is our lovely dessert for tomorrow.
I hope we make it to tomorrow.
Or whatever.
Totally me. Yeah.
I was
he
like,
says,
that's
I hope we
Kaylin.
make it to tomorrow.
Like, you would have
Yep.
some sweet gesture, be like, it's fine, Kaylin.
Yep.
We'll figure it out tomorrow. And you would go,
Yep.
if we make it to tomorrow. I
I
mean,
sure would.
if we're still here.
If we're still here, that would be
And I'd be
me.
like, Kaylin,
chill.
if we're not here, then like,
We have bigger problems than a pie. Definitely me, though. You're right. Once Muriel and Eustace have retreated to bed, Courage spots the creature outside their window and runs downstairs with his binoculars intact to investigate. There he hears some rather intense growling and sees the pie shifting in the windowsill.
Raccoon or not, you're not getting this pie.
And I guess it's like a pretty short monster because he can't be seen from the first floor window when he's tugging on the pie.
yeah,
He's reaching up for it. I don't know.
I don't know. Because otherwise he just would have grabbed the pie. Like,
You would think so, right?
I think he was just trying to play.
Looking for a friend, we might find.
For a friend.
But they play tug-of-war with the pie. And the ethereal, spooky sound effects and growling stop abruptly when it flies back in Courage's face. And Muriel enters. I suppose she heard all that racket.
Sure.
And is so kind and understanding when she discovers Courage covered in pie.
It's all right, Courage. I'll make another pie in the morning.
But.
Next time, use a plate.
She's not even bothered. She's like, okay, Courage just ate our whole pie. No big deal. Courage, like me, is understandably shaken up at this point.
There was something on the other end of that pie, or my name's Aloysius.
Aloysius.
And it's not.
Same. I mean, we're going to be able to clock every single. I knew that it was a running joke, but there's been at least one of those in, I think, every episode so far.
So far, yes. And I would guess that probably the first season has one. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the whole first season yet, but
Right.
what is Aloysius?
It's a name.
It's just a name?
I think it's just a random name.
Do you think that's where they got Hallowishes
No,
from for Disney?
I don't.
The Halloween show?
I don't think that.
But Aloysius and Hallowishes?
What does the name Aloysius mean? The name means it's a Germanic word meaning famous warrior.
Well,
Just so you know.
the more you know.
Apparently.
I'm glad we could all learn something today on That's Pretty Dark.
Hey, we're just getting started. We are just getting started.
Tell me about it.
Back to the pie on the windowsill.
Ooh.
Maybe it's just me being from mosquito and bug central in the southern United States,
Mm-hmm.
and being lucky enough to have central air conditioning for most of my life. Putting anything on the windowsill to cool has only been something I've seen in movies and old cartoons, despite watching my mama cook for much of my young life and childhood.
Hey, were there like fewer bugs back in
I
the day?
assume there had to have been, right?
I don't understand.
I don't get it. And stranger still for Muriel to do so at nighttime.
Yeah.
Don't you want your windows closed when you go to bed?
Not when you live in the middle of nowhere.
I guess
Out in
not.
the country. But like, yeah, leaving your window open without a screen, first
Without
of
a
all.
screen. That's the thing. I recognize that this trope is a holdover from like the pre-air conditioner days when the air in the house was hot and still and didn't move. So you needed it to be on the windowsill where there was like a breeze or something, if there was a breeze.
Yeah.
But what did people do about the bugs? I have never, in all of my movie watching and cartoon watching years, I've never seen a pie sat down on a screened in windowsill.
Mm-mm. Not
And
have any.
I don't know.
It's always just there to be taken by whatever main characters of the show or like a bear
You're nailing it.
or other animals.
You're nailing it. The trope of the pie in the window is that the aroma wafts out into nature
Yep.
and attracts whatever creature is in nature, which is exactly what happens in this episode.
It lifts you up off the ground.
Often, yes.
And then you float like you have fairy wings.
yes.
You follow your
The
nose.
scent to the pie.
Woo-hoo.
That is what we have
Yep.
seen over and over and over again in cartoons throughout the 20th century.
I've smelled some good smells, but it never lifted me off the ground.
Me neither. But speaking of pies on windowsills, and especially the snatching of them, I found a New York Times article from 2002 titled, "Take These Pies, Please," inviting thieves to a window where art imitates lore.
Oh,
And I'd like to read you a few excerpts from said article.
I'm titillated. I'm
Are
honestly.
you ready for this? This is that hard hitting.
I use that word facetiously, but I'm pretty excited about this. I have always wanted to know where this came from.
I kind of have too. And I don't know that I'm going to tell you where it came from. It came from old Americana.
I would even think like old European.
and beyond, I'm sure. Just that old-timey homemaker sort of idea.
There's got to be a fairy tale or something.
But, you know, Americana is the apple pie, right? Like that's something that's very supposedly, not to my personal experience, but to experiences in middle America probably, central to your culture, especially in previous decades. So in this article, journalist Andy Newman, not to be confused with Randy Newman, discusses a performance art piece called Pies for a Passerby, conducted by artist and baker Anissa Mack.
Nice.
So basically in 2002, late spring, early summer of 2002, Anissa Mack set up a tableau of a one-room children's playhouse near the Brooklyn Public Library, where she would bake pies every day and leave them on her windowsill to cool, expecting or maybe even hoping for someone to take them.
All right.
As the article says, the idea is to see what happens when a classic image of small-town America, the swiping of a fresh pie off of a windowsill, depicted everywhere from The Little Rascals to Oh Brother, Where Art Thou to The Simpsons, and even then we could have included Courage the Cowardly Dog,
Yeah.
comes to life and touches down in the big city. So this was essentially, like I said, a performance art piece, but reactions to the performance were varied. Given the something-for-nothing nature of the project, some New Yorkers smelled not a pie, but a rat. Why would you want to steal pie off of a windowsill? Asked a 17-year-old student at the Science Skills Center High School after Miss Mack explained the performance piece to her. She said there might be something wrong with it. And there's that skepticism that we all have.
Oh, no,
now
I wouldn't take a
that
pie.
didn't exist.
I mean, I would take a pie I wouldn't steal someone's pie. Let's just put it out there.
Are we going to
But
clarify?
if I was going to, if it was just like on the windowsill of like a house in like the woods, like the forest or something, if it was like a sweet old lady baking some pies, yeah, I'd probably get it.
That is exactly what Anissa Mack was recreating. You could see through the window.
But on a windowsill though, like in the city,
It is.
no, I'm not taking that pie.
So it's exactly that. It's confusing, right? You see her there. You can see through the gingham curtains. The article describes it beautifully.
Mhm.
Into the little cottage that she's built next to the Brooklyn Public Library, where she's baking her pies, rolling pins, and all of the imagery that's supposed to evoke that
I wouldn't do it.
nostalgic feeling. But you wouldn't take it
No.
if it was in the middle of Brooklyn.
No, and on second thought, I probably wouldn't in the middle of like the woods either, because that sounds like the beginning of a fairy tale or a horror film, or both.
Where something goes horribly wrong.
I'm not
But
looking
see,
to have a curse on me from whatever witch lives there.
we here at That's Pretty Dark are looking at things with that healthy skepticism that we developed as millennials.
Yeah.
And it may not have been the case for everybody, existing prior to us. So in the continuation of this experiment, a few minutes after this high school student came by, a woman grabbed the pie after reading about the project on a sign next to the cottage and offered it to two little girls sitting on the library steps. They shrank from her as if she were handing out worms.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Other people seemed unable to grasp the concept of a gift bestowed randomly.
Mm-mm.
It's just not in that culture, right?
Mm-mm.
No sooner had Miss Mack closed up shop Friday after a 5-pie day than a woman appeared at the window and demanded to know what time she had to show up the next morning to get a pie. Miss Mack said, "I can't guarantee that you'll get a pie." And the woman answered, "Why not, if I'm first in line?"
Yeah.
That's the mentality that came to life in New York City.
It's like when Monica makes the candy and for
It's
her
exactly like
apartment,
that.
and everybody
Yes.
shows up wanting more candy,
Yep.
demanding it from her.
Demanding more candy.
That's so funny, but this being a real life thing, that's pretty interesting.
It is. Just in the way that it developed.
I'm sure a lot of that hesitation comes from the stranger danger
Mhm.
that was just like shoved down our throats forever.
Absolutely it
as
does,
well
yeah.
as all the candy scares.
Right.
The candy tampering.
Right. The
myths
candy
and
tampering that we
things.
talked about in our Halloween series, for sure. I think that, yes, the culture was a lot more fearful around free food from a stranger than it may have been.
Now it's almost like,
And now it's unheard of. Like doing that now, I don't know that she would even have people taking pies, right? Or,
mm-mm.
I don't know.
You'd have to have some very official looking,
Right.
like,
It would have to, it would have to look official. It would have
Yeah.
to have credentials. And
yes.
that's something that has evolved with time and the world that we live in. And the few people, as we know from our Halloween series, the very few people that take advantage of an opportunity like that
Yeah.
for a very, very malicious and evil reason.
Mm-hmm.
Anissa Mack said, "People really feel entitled." And that's sort of an interesting American thing too. She said, "On Saturday, the script played out as originally conceived." She said an adult man raced across the plaza, stole the pie right in front of a bunch of little kids who were waiting, and ran off. She said that it was pretty
That's the move right
satisfying
there.
to get it exactly the way that she wanted it.
He's taller than all of them. He just reaches over and
Yeah.
takes it.
And it happened in
What an
real
asshole.
life. That cartoon style idea, it
Oh.
did happen. But, times have now changed since then, 21 years since the piece.
God.
And honestly, today you could probably get the pie to cook on the concrete because we've just exceeded Earth's highest temperature record
Yeah.
for several days in a row.
Yeah.
But I thought it was so funny to just, obviously with what we're doing here, I have to love it. I love that an artist went to those lengths
Yeah.
to bring something so quaint into a city and see how it played out.
It's cool that a performance art piece like that also doubles as a social experiment.
Exactly.
Like, I kind
It's
of
almost,
wish.
it almost is a social experiment
Yeah.
before it's an art piece.
Yeah. It's almost like that's secondary to it.
If that was just my whole job, dude, if I could just conceive of stuff like that and have experiments like that done, it's so interesting to me. Human nature is so interesting to me because as much as it isn't like a quantitative thing that you
Mhm.
can measure, it also is,
Man, we could do that here. We could think of some crazy stuff. Being in the South, my God. But think about it. It would be performance piece, a social experiment, and a publicity stunt for our podcast.
it would be for our. We could do all of the above at the same
The
time.
trifecta.
We know all about the idea of one of those social experiment publicity stunts. We talked about the clowns.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In our Zebo episode, we talked about
Mm.
the clowns in the park.
That's right. We did.
It does happen for sure. But I don't know. I just thought that was a fun little aside. And
No,
it's
that's super interesting.
the
Yeah.
first time we've seen a pie on a window yet so far. And that's pretty dark.
It is one of those classic tropes that we love to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've seen it once, we're going to start seeing it all.
Oh, we're going to see it over and over. So after this, I assume Courage cleans himself up. He eats some more pie. And the next day, we find Eustace watching the Nowhere News, where the newsman is breaking a big story.
This is special Nowhere News. There's a Bigfoot in these here parts. He's been terrorizing Nowhere. Now we know the cause of all them disasters. We found proof positive Bigfoot is here.
Disasters.
Disasters.
My word processor really hated the way that I phrased that quote. It's so angry. There's
that's
so many
funny.
red lines and blue lines.
These here parts.
Disasters depicted on screen on the Nowhere News include the Sphinx losing its nose,
Mhm.
what I can only assume is the Titanic sinking in a very poorly photoshopped image, and the Colosseum collapse.
These aren't local atrocities. These are like worldwide.
Worldwide,
atrocities.
exactly.
These
Exactly.
disasters.
Disasters. Apparently, they found, quoting, proof positive of Bigfoot's presence in Nowhere, a big footprint.
Yeah.
The newsman goes on to explain that the Nowhere Museum is offering a reward of a whopping $25
25.
and a lifetime museum membership for the person who brings Bigfoot to light or reports any strange goings on.
So funny.
Eustace, who is always money hungry and apparently also a museum buff, didn't know that about him,
He just likes to win.
gets real jazzed and declares,
That's for me.
That's for me. I like that. Such a weird phrase.
phrasing. It is.
That's for
it's
me.
weird, right?
That's for
me. Instead of like, that's mine, or like, I'm going to get that. He says, that's
It
for me.
must have come
I've seen that in something
from
else too.
something else.
Well, I've seen that in something else, but I can't put my finger on it. I thought about it for days.
It's also like heavy entitlement. Like his narcissism shows like
Yeah.
it's not for anybody else. It's for me.
That belongs to me. That's for me. They've done this for me.
100%.
Speaking of entitlement, yeah.
It's like the dad from A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
He's won a major award.
Right.
Damn, Hal. You said you won that?
Well, right, exactly.
I love that movie. I can almost quote the whole movie.
I'd love to just sit here and have you do it, but I think people would be confused.
I don't want to. I don't want to.
So Muriel wants to know the cause for all the excitement, and when Eustace explains to her what's going on, she asks,
Now, what's wrong with your foot?
Yeah. Yes.
it's got the energy of trying to explain a TV show to your mom,
Yes.
you know?
She's so
Or
oblivious.
your grandmom.
She's so oblivious.
Just so blissfully unaware.
Sweet baby Muriel.
Sweet Muriel. Courage then puts two and two together, realizing that this could be the monster who paid them a visit last night, and confirms his suspicions, finding a footprint in their yard. He then imagines a literal Bigfoot, not a Bigfoot monster, but a Bigfoot.
Which is odd foreshadowing
It is,
for later in the
actually.
season with the other
True.
Bigfoot that we're going to meet.
Not only is the foot that he imagines much bigger than the footprint that's in front of him, because of course
Yes.
Courage is catastrophizing,
Of course.
the foot is also punting Muriel through the old uprights on a football field. And also the visual of Muriel between the monster's toes is pretty off-putting.
It's gross,
And I knew a lot of people when I was a kid that were really grossed out by feet. So I feel like, as usual, they're taking every opportunity to pepper in the fear or disgust, even just wherever they can
Yeah,
get it.
I guess so.
Of course, we can't have a Bigfoot episode without doing just a little bit of background on the myth or creature itself.
Hell yeah.
And in all my years of random documentary perusing and podcast listening, I feel like even though I may have heard it, I wasn't all that familiar with the origins of this bit of lore.
Yeah.
But now we can all be familiar together, listener. And if you already are, let's just get back to basics.
I know a guy who lives in Louisiana who is obsessed with Sasquatch.
Oh, nice.
Like to the point where like we referred to Sasquatch as Squatch.
Man, we should have consulted him for this episode.
And it was like, like half serious, half joking. But when I went to his wedding where I signed my name, I signed Squatch into his wedding. So I thought
Nice. Well, now he knows if he listens to the show.
he doesn't.
He knows it was you. He's going to be all disappointed.
He doesn't.
Wikipedia says, Bigfoot, also commonly referred to as Sasquatch, is a large and hairy human-like mythical creature, which we know.
Hey, we don't know he's mythical.
Fair.
They,
We don't know if they're mythical.
we don't know they're mythical.
They are purported to inhabit forests in North America, particularly in the Pacific Northwest. Common descriptions of the Bigfoot or Sasquatch include broad shoulders, no visible neck, and long arms, which many skeptics attribute to misidentification of a bear standing upright. Which, I mean, how long are a bear's arms, actually?
I mean,
I don't feel like they'd be that long. But anyway.
But if you're already looking at a bear in whatever frame of mind, and your mind says, hey, that's a Sasquatch,
Yeah.
you're already seeing things that aren't there.
That's fair.
So
That's
you're
a good point.
probably, your memory or whatever is probably just exaggerating everything.
Well, who are we to say?
I don't
Really?
know.
I don't know either.
I'm speculating.
Some alleged nighttime sightings have stated that the creature's eyes glowed in a yellow or red. However, eye shine isn't present in humans or any other known great apes. And so proposed explanations for observable eye shine off of the ground in the forest include owls, raccoons, like Muriel said, or opossums perched in the foliage.
Or any kind of cat.
Or cats.
Cats have the eye reflection
Big cats, bobcats. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true.
mountain lions. Hell yeah.
Many of the indigenous cultures across the North American continent include tales of mysterious hair-covered creatures living in forests. And according to anthropologist David Dangling,
That's not a real name.
it's
Daegling?
Daegling.
Dangling.
Dangling.
That's one. Dangling mother person.
These legends existed long before contemporary reports of the creature described as Bigfoot, according to Mr. Dangling. These stories differed in their details regionally, which is really interesting to me because I don't know, maybe that relates to the different fauna
Sure.
that inhabit different regions. I don't know.
Or like what they can ascribe, like their mythical beliefs, like their folklores and such. Maybe just how things evolved over time.
It also differs between families in the same communities.
Oh, wow.
While we don't have a date for the origin of the idea, in 1958, Jerry Crew, bulldozer operator for a logging company in Humboldt County, California, discovered a set of large 16-inch human-like footprints sunk deep within the mud in the Six Rivers National Forest. Upon informing his coworkers, many claimed to have seen similar tracks on previous job sites, as well as telling of odd incidents, such as an oil drum weighing 450 pounds having been moved without explanation. So not only is there a Sasquatch, but he's assisting the loggers out in the woods.
He was just looking for work.
Right.
Just looking for a job.
That's all. Just an
In this
honest
economy?
day's work, you know? In this economy,
economy.
Bigfoot just needed a job.
He got the job. He just needed the paycheck.
He needs to come forward so he can claim it. They won't experiment on him or do anything horrible. They promise.
No, he won't die in the process.
So the logging company men soon began utilizing the term Bigfoot to describe the apparent culprit.
Bigfoot.
Crew initially believed someone was playing a prank on them. And after observing more of these massive footprints, he contacted reporter Andrew Genzoli of the Humboldt Times newspaper. Genzoli interviewed lumber workers and wrote articles about the mysterious footprints, including the name Bigfoot in relation to the tracks and the local tales of a large, hairy, wild man.
Wow.
A plaster cast was made of the footprints, and Crew appeared holding one of the casts on the front page of the newspaper on October 6, 1958, and the story spread rapidly as Genzoli began to receive correspondence from major media outlets, including the New York Times and Los Angeles Times. As a result, the term Bigfoot became widespread as a reference to an apparently large, unknown creature leaving massive footprints in Northern California. As a result, Willow Creek and Humboldt County are considered by some to be the Bigfoot capital of the world.
Wow.
I would bet that some of our listeners have been there, maybe even lived there.
Yeah.
So they probably know more than we do about this phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
But the most well-known video of an alleged Bigfoot, the Patterson-Gimlin film, was recorded on October 20th of 1967 by Roger Patterson and Robert Bob Gimlin in an area called Bluff Creek in Northern California. The 59.5 second long video has become an iconic piece of Bigfoot lore and continues to be a highly scrutinized, analyzed, and debated subject.
Yeah.
I believe I've seen that clip before.
It's like the clip.
Yeah. If you're into anything offbeat, you probably have come across that at some point in your life. And I didn't realize it was from 1967.
Which was then updated and perfected in the film Elf.
Yes,
When
exactly.
he's walking through
Central Park.
Yeah.
Sure is. Yes. I kind of liked the Bigfoot element being pulled in here because this episode specifically, obviously the Bag's house and Nowhere in general has kind of that mid-century vibe. Not the outright setting, obviously, but the idea or the echo of a mid-century vibe. And so I think Bigfoot fits right into that.
Yeah, I think so.
Now I'm ready ready to get me a Bigfoot.
So, because the reward is for him, apparently,
That's for me.
Eustace begins plotting to hunt down the cryptid and lays out his supplies, including a mousetrap, fishing pole, fly swatter, and iron torture collar. Because those things go together.
I would not have been surprised if he had assembled items to build or stage a fake Bigfoot.
Actually, yeah, that
Something.
might have been a funnier.
I was like, he's about to build himself a damn Bigfoot.
He's going to build a Bigfoot. How to build a Bigfoot.
Because like that's also part of the whole like Bigfoot history.
For sure. Just the whole Bigfoot concept.
People staging things, faking things.
Absolutely. It's one of the more widely like staged or imitated.
Really just to get funding so that they can then go prove the existence.
And research.
of
Exactly.
Bigfoot.
It's true. So Courage does some more charades trying to let him know about the footprint that he found, but they're interrupted by the doorbell.
We don't need any.
But he's met with honestly what looks like a miniature version of himself,
It
also
sounds-
voiced by Lionel Wilson.
Yeah. It's just an old woman version of.
And it's just an little old woman version of Eustace.
Basically, it's what his mom is.
It's what his mom looks like in a later episode, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, listener, if this is meant to subtly imply that Eustace and Bigfoot are related. Don't know. We'll see. Don't know. Yet to be told.
Second cousins twice removed.
Exactly. We'll get there later, too.
Hey.
Please, mister, my little boy is lost. You seen my little boy? Ain't seen no lost boy.
He continues to scheme, eager to collect that $25 prize.
And the lifetime membership.
Can't forget that. Muriel offers some pie to Courage, who says to camera,
Who could worry on an empty stomach?
and just when the viewer thinks that they can take a breather, the very next shot reveals Muriel hand-feeding the pie to what is presumably Bigfoot, voiced by John Dilworth himself, by the way.
Nice.
To me, Bigfoot doesn't look that intimidating, even at first glance. He reminded me a lot of the Looney Tunes character Gossamer.
Yeah.
Like that looks like where maybe they got the inspiration for this Bigfoot.
He's a similar like shape. Yeah.
Yeah, same shape, no neck.
I can see it.
After a momentary screaming match, during which the sounds are once again the scariest part of the villain,
Yeah.
Muriel decides to have a leisurely cup of tea.
I think I'll have a wee cup of tea.
Because that's what you do. Courage is then frozen and decides to hurl the nearest object at Bigfoot, which is apparently a watermelon, and this begins a classic food fight.
Yeah, I want to point out he threw the watermelon, so he threw a summer pumpkin,
A summer pumpkin.
and there was also a jack-o'-lantern thrown.
Wow.
So, two worlds
Summer.
colliding.
And an autumn
Mm-hmm.
pumpkin. I feel like this show really has a knack for bringing these larger-than-life villains into the house and getting them down on Courage's domestic level.
Yeah.
Perhaps this is a loose metaphor for how the creators were bringing them into our childhood homes and minds.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I'm reaching a little bit, but I like it. I can't say I don't like it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's definitely,
It's a thought that I had when I wrote these notes and put them on paper.
who knows if that was intended, but
Yeah,
they definitely accomplished that,
they
regardless.
did. Yeah, they did for sure.
That's what happened either way.
The food fight is underscored by an operatic symphony. Good golly, Jody. Jody and Andy really outdid themselves
They
on the
really
music
did.
in this episode.
They really did.
But that eventually gives way to laughter and haphazard fruit sculptures, which shifts into a Carmen Miranda-esque dance performance, complete with tropical fruit ensembles, when the radio is struck and plays a tropical tune.
Dude, you can hear Jody doing that like vocalization.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I'm not going to even attempt it, but
It's great.
I'll
It's
let you
Jody's
in.
voice, most
it's
definitely.
100% him.
And according to the IMDb, this track by Jody and Andy is even titled Carmina Miranda,
No,
which
nice.
is great.
That's awesome.
And I feel like I should probably give a little vignette to Carmen Miranda also.
Sure.
Man, who knew that Bigfoot and Carmen Miranda would be in the same place at the same time? But here they are.
Thanks, Dilly.
I feel like her fruit headdresses were ubiquitous in cartoons of the time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if you aren't familiar, which I feel like we are maybe the last generation to have a working, if vague, knowledge of Carmen Miranda.
I feel like this goes way back too.
It
Yeah.
does.
Like I remember seeing it in Looney Tunes. Am I
Yes.
incorrect?
Most definitely. No,
All right.
definitely all throughout. All throughout Looney Tunes and just throughout the decades
Mhm.
as a trope.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't blame all of you Gen Z cusps or Gen Zs out there who don't know who this is. But I would love to tell you because she deserves to be remembered, damn it.
It's not your fault,
It's not your fault.
but it's your responsibility to look this up
That's right.
And-
Well, you don't even have to because we're going to tell you right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Wow.
So Carmen Miranda was a Portuguese-born Brazilian performer who passed away in 1955 at the age of 46.
Wow. So
She
young.
rose to fame singing and performing on Brazilian radio and in Brazilian musical films. And according to Wikipedia, in 1939, a Broadway producer offered her an 8-week contract to perform in the streets of Paris after seeing her in Rio de Janeiro. The following year, she made her first Hollywood film, Down Argentine Way. And that year, she was voted the 3rd most popular personality in the United States.
Whoa.
And she and her group were invited to sing and dance for President Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Wow.
I thought you were going to say something.
I had like 4 or 5 different things I was going to say. And I'm not gonna.
In 1943, Miranda starred in Busby Berkeley's The Gang's All Here, which featured musical numbers with the fruit hats that became her trademark.
Yeah, the fruit hat.
That came from 1943.
Wow.
By 1945, she was the highest paid woman in the United States.
Damn.
Miranda made 14 Hollywood films between 1940 and 1953, and despite being stereotyped, Miranda's performances popularized Brazilian music and increased public awareness of Latin culture. In 1941, she was the first Latin American star to be invited to leave her hand and footprints in the courtyard of Grauman's Chinese Theater in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, and was the first South American honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
I bet that just burned up all those white people.
I
That's
don't even want to
crazy.
think about it. She
That's so
obviously
cool.
deserved it and like worked herself
Yeah.
to the bone. And I'm not sure exactly what she passed from, but obviously she passed at a pretty young age. So that's pretty sad.
She wasn't here for a long time. She was here for a good time.
Yeah. And a good time she had, it seems. I hope anyway.
She gave us all good times.
But anyway, now you know the reason behind all of those fruit headdresses in cartoons. And this is also one of those things that makes Courage feel much more mid-century than late century.
Man, the fruit hat, though. It's one of those things you see so many times throughout childhood that you don't even really
it's
question
just a
it
thing.
or process that it is fruit.
That's how I felt. It was just like, that's a thing that happens.
It's just something.
It's even in,
Yeah.
I feel like it's even kind of in Lion King.
Oh, yeah.
If you're hungry for a hunger, fat, and juicy meat, me and my buddy over here because he is a treat.
Mhm.
Come on down to dine. Oh, Stacy's fine. All you got to do is get in line.
Wow.
Are you aching? Yep.
Do I have
Anyway.
to quote a Christmas story now?
Yeah, you can if you want.
No. All right. How much time do we have?
I can do all of Lion King. You can do all of Christmas Story. It'll be great. Where were we?
Fruit headdresses.
Yes. Pink dogs, cryptids, fruit headdresses.
Food fight.
The food fight. So now that Courage and Bigfoot are familiar with each other, of course, this nice moment can't last either because it's Courage, the cowardly freaking dog.
Mm-hmm.
So Eustace comes home.
What's for dinner?
And after being momentarily frightened by the monster himself, he heads out to share the news.
And very quickly.
In approximately 12 seconds, he has assembled an angry mob complete with torches and pitchforks outside the house.
They just forewent the 3 hours later.
It was, yeah, exactly. They didn't even care about that.
Later.
It was just, they're here now.
Yeah.
They were primed and ready to come to wherever Bigfoot happened to be, I guess.
Those are the thoughts that I have about this mob.
This might be the most people we ever see at their little house in nowhere.
If they are people.
Can't quite tell because it's kind of a all one entity, as we'll discuss.
Yes.
But they throw rocks through the window, chanting and demanding for Bigfoot to be given up. Eustace brandishes his iron torture collar and tells Muriel to get out of the way because there's a Bigfoot in the house. And I don't know how much of this is her blissful ignorance and how much is her actually being aware of Bigfoot's friendly nature and coming to his defense, but still, she threatens Eustace with a rock. So I'll take it.
She did feed him a pie, so it kind of feels,
He feels like family.
like she's met him, welcomed him in,
Right.
You poor thing, you need a pie. Are you hungry?
Right. So he's he's in with
Because
Muriel.
like David and Jody said, she sees no evil.
Right. She's just welcoming him into her home, being hospitable. Meanwhile, the mob has brought a giant battering ram around to the front door, and they're just about to break it down. I've never seen any trees in Nowhere, much less one that big, to create a battering ram that big.
You saw a tree in the quack?
Just one? Okay. But was it this big?
It was huge. Courage used it to swing from the tree into the upstairs window.
Oh, you're right. You're so right. But where did it go? I guess they cut it down for this battering ram.
These things pop up and come and go.
They do.
When convenient.
Yeah, when necessary. So the mob is demanding Bigfoot be brought outside, and Bigfoot pulls a Courage instead and bursts through the kitchen wall, snapping and snarling. Courage tries his charades again to let the mob know Bigfoot is actually an angel, and he means no harm to the people. He just wants pie and to dance the samba.
Me too.
The mob is relentless as Eustace goes them on, and at this point I'm like, even if they split the reward, which we all know Eustace isn't gonna do, they would make maybe a nickel a piece, if that.
At most.
There's so many people. But I just feel like I should say, get a grip, Nowherians. What's in it for you? You know?
If they are Nowherians.
From the mob then emerges the tiny lady from before.
What are you all doing to my boy? Theodore! Mommy!
Revealing herself to be Bigfoot. I mean, Theodore's mother.
Theodore.
They run toward each other dramatically and join in an embrace. And the mob is moved by this as we hear cries of "aw,"
And their eyes go from like upward to downward.
upward and
No,
angry.
from downward to upward. The
Yes.
curve.
They're not angry anymore. Now they're sympathetic and empathetic.
Yep.
And Eustace is undeterred, taking this opportunity to snap the torture collar to Theodore's ankle.
Freaking opportunity.
And then comes the rolling pin of doom. Do you remember that from TV tropes in
I
the
do.
previous episode?
Sure do.
Eustace, take that collar off the child's ankle.
No!
But he's petulant and resists, as we know Eustace is. But now the mob has turned on him instead, like they do, chasing him down to advocate for the child's freedom and giving him a taste of his own medicine. I do appreciate the depiction of an angry mob in this way, with the hint of tongue-in-cheek irony at their fickle nature.
Yeah.
I feel like the angry mob was a concept I was already pretty familiar with from Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
And plus, in both of these cases, the mob is proven to be the scary thing, with all of their misplaced zeal and convoluted groupthink, and not actually the beast that they're after.
Yeah, well, this comes from Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Like the classic chasing the monster, quote unquote monster,
Sure.
into the windmill, setting fire to it.
Yeah.
Like this is classic horror. And it's always with that perspective of you're chasing an innocent. You're trying to harm something that actually isn't bad.
It's different.
It's misunderstood, you know, like it's the misunderstood monster. Like watch any Tim Burton movie, literally any Tim Burton movie.
Yes.
And it's this same story over and over. It exists. It deserves love.
Mhm.
And your hatred actually makes you the monsters.
So true.
Yeah. Mob mentality and all that kind of stuff. All that
Yes.
sociology is wild stuff.
It's absolutely wild. And listener, I'll just say, if you ever find yourself in the midst of an angry mob, step back and analyze what you're doing.
You can also do this online. Like people gang up in threads and like chats and stuff. And like people get all bent out of shape and burn up about nothing.
Yeah,
It's just fueling that flame.
exactly.
And like earlier, I called it an amorphous blob mob.
Blob mob.
A blobby
It is a blob mob.
mob. My takeaway wasn't even that they are nowhere citizens. It isn't even that they're people. Like, I know this is like a super convenient way to not have to animate
Yeah.
dozens of people.
Right.
So you just sort of you take the whole like concept of a mob mentality
Right.
and you actually animate them to be one
Thing.
creature almost.
Mhm.
And because they're fully cast in shadow and all you can see is their outlines and their eyes. So they're little more than silhouettes.
Right.
And in a way, because they're faceless, shapeless, formless, all this stuff, they themselves pretty much become a cryptid in their own right. Like they are their own entity
Yeah.
that exists in nowhere.
Yeah.
And they can be called upon by anybody who has this, I don't know, energy, this need, this hatred, like Eustace has when he flees the house
Mhm.
in, like you said, like 12 seconds.
And you call this other thing
You almost
this
call it.
entity in nowhere.
Yes.
Ugh.
And it shows up at your behest.
Mhm.
That's kind of where my mind went with it.
Yikes.
This is just one of the many mysteries.
Like, I don't hate it as a thought. I think it's a very astute thing to realize, but I hate it as a concept.
And like you said, it's fickle. Mobs are fickle.
Mhm.
So it did learn. It's funny because like Courage experiences Bigfoot, the monster,
Mhm.
and realizes that they're the same and became friends.
Mhm.
And he goes from fearing it to trying to protect it. And the mob does the same thing. So it's like, these are really incredible lessons in empathy, like we talked about with
Yes.
David and Jody, of like,
For sure.
normalize changing your mind, right?
Yes.
Like once new information is presented.
This thing that you thought you hated, maybe you don't hate it
right.
that much.
Maybe
if
you
at
were
all.
just following the wrong leader.
Yep.
Maybe somebody was just trying to get you all,
Up in arms.
roused up to serve their own agenda, their own purpose.
Exactly.
So maybe the next time somebody gets you all flustered and
not in a good way.
maybe you should, not in a good way. I mean, if you can get flustered, by all means, go get it. Anyway, I just think it's a really, really cool depiction of human nature,
Right.
Meeting new information and empathy, and learning how to choose right.
It's pretty smart,
over
but it's
wrong.
also something to remember that if the group can turn on a dime that quickly, maybe their convictions weren't as solid as you thought they were.
Right.
It's both things for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Courage frees Theodore, who's dragged off by the ear as his mother scolds him.
Next time you want to play, stay in our backyard.
He's like, yes, Mama. That's where I got the whole, he was just playing with the pie, trying to get Courage to, play with him.
Maybe. Yeah, he was just looking for a friend.
He didn't really want to take it.
That's all he wanted, was a friend.
Yeah.
So the episode wraps up with Courage and Muriel on their porch under the stars, enjoying slices of blueberry pie. To the camera, Courage says,
"There's a little Bigfoot in us all, isn't there?"
before a banana inexplicably appears in his mouth.
I know.
Residue from the food fight, I guess.
What was that?
Where'd
What
it come
happened?
from?
I don't know.
I don't know. I hope you
cannot
would know, because I don't
can't
know.
explain the ending.
No. I
This
think
may
you
have-
could have just said, there's a little Bigfoot in us all, isn't there? Winked at the camera, something, and then it's
Even
you know,
that feels like
lights off.
we're out of time.
Yeah.
We just need
I don't
something.
know. The banana was weird, though.
It was weird. It was very strange.
The echo of Carmina Miranda. But overall, I appreciated this episode because much like the shadow in the last episode, we're called, like you said, to be empathetic
Mhm.
to the creatures that we were once afraid of and put ourselves in their shoes for a
And
change.
there are some big shoes on a Bigfoot.
I think despite not always being remembered for this because of all the, scary visuals, this is one of the things that Courage the Cowardly Dog does best as a show.
Yeah.
Deep down, we are all the same, and we'd all do well to cross the imaginary boundary lines built by assumption and bigotry and blind hatred and work on embracing our similarities instead of our differences. So thank you, Courage, and your creators. But now, before we get into Hothead, it's time for the Scareometer.
Yeah, buddy. Let's do it.
Everybody's favorite part. So,
Do you guys like this? I don't
does
know.
anybody care? I'd say I give this episode a 2. For
I was gonna say
scariness,
2.
personally,
Yeah.
for you.
2.
But we do recognize, listener, at the end of the day, it's really not meant to be scary.
It's not about the
It's
scare.
not supposed to be. And I can dig that.
Our show is not about how scary it is.
No.
But we just started doing the Scareometer.
Right.
Just for the hell of it. Because it's kind of
Just
fun.
for the hell of it. Yeah, our show isn't even about how scary it is, but it's just fun, okay? It's fun.
It's just fun. Let us have a good time.
Let us have fun. Literally nobody is
Nobody.
arguing.
They're at home making
They're
their
like,
own Scareometers.
okay,
They're
God,
sitting there with
guys,
their
why are you
spouses,
so angry?
their partners, their friends. They're like, okay, what do you have for this one? I have a 3.
Yeah, let's see if we match Kaylin and
Oh,
Christian.
they gave it a 2. God, these guys are so brave.
I had a 6.
I'm so scared of Bigfoot.
So funny. Yeah, write in, listener. Let us know your scareometers for the episode.
Truly, the only fear factor, the only frightening element is that there is something outside the house
Mm-hmm.
that you can't quite see,
Yeah.
and it's knocking over your trash cans.
I mean, the mob is pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie. When there's an angry mob mobilized against you, that's terrifying. And obviously, we know they can be mobilized for the wrong reasons,
They can.
and often are. Just saying. But that's Bigfoot.
It's still a fun episode. I like
It's a
it.
fun one. I had fun looking into the Bigfoot lore, at least. I thought that was really, I
Mhm.
thought it was apropos for our show, and I was surprised, honestly, that we hadn't had reason to do it before.
And given the whole classic horror mob chasing a monster thing, I like that they got to use that in the show. It's
Mhm.
such a
It's the Frankenstein, like you said.
It
I
is.
mean,
It just is.
It's the classic.
it's a trope in itself
Yeah.
of horror cinema.
Yes.
that you
It
kinda-
is a horror cinema trope for sure.
If you're gonna do that for something, like for a show, I hope I get to use it for something one day. It's almost like a rite of passage.
For horror.
It's just a great visual.
Agreed.
Man, it's been such a cool summer. We, need
Yeah,
to
guys,
warm up.
did Christian tell you yet what he's been doing
No.
during the hottest days on record that the Earth has experienced so far?
I bought a full autumn and winter supply of firewood. And
When he texted me that he was making this purchase, I literally to myself laughed out loud because I was like, of course you are.
it's super
Of course
convenient
Christian
because
is doing this.
I don't have a trailer hook up to my SUV, and they delivered to my home 2 pallets, and each pallet is about 1,000 pounds. So you could say I just bought a ton of firewood.
Well, you
Quite
don't even.
literally.
It's not even something you could say. It's something you should
You
say.
literally,
Apparently it's
I
true.
literally bought a
And I
ton.
was like, how does Christian cope with the hottest summer on record?
I
He
buy
buys firewood in bulk.
firewood in bulk
Man,
and wish for autumn.
what a time we've been having.
Really great times, really fun times in the American South.
So on that lovely note, let's transition on to the second segment of our courage episode.
Let's get into this episode and not think about the wet bulb temperatures
Yeah,
and how
let's
those are rising.
let's just talk about Hothead, shall we? Let's think about something else rising.
Yowza.
Excitingly, this seems to be the first episode, the very first episode written by our friend, and I love that I can call him our friend, David Stephen Cohen.
Mm-hmm. He's out there on the front lines
Yep.
on the Writers Guild strike,
He sure is right now. Good luck to you, David, and Godspeed.
wearing his Courage t-shirt and everything.
I love it. But David made it pretty clear throughout our conversation that he was mostly just executing John's vision for a lot of the episodes. But I do like that we can still unearth pieces of him now that we all know him together. You guys know him, basically just as well as we do.
Yep.
As we explore his episodes.
Yes.
I know that we will be getting into that a lot more as we move through the season.
Yes.
But I love that this is his first episode, and I think it's so fun. In summary, this time paraphrased from TV tropes,
All right.
after reading an ad in the newspaper, Eustace goes to a testing facility hoping that they can help him grow some hair. Unfortunately, the new experimental product causes explosive results.
Explosive results.
That was mine, by the way. I paraphrase, like I said.
nice.
But we once again open in the Bag's living room, where Eustace is reading the Nowhere News and is captivated by an ad promising hair growth.
Old, we want you. Oh, gone today, hair tomorrow. Experimental Institute.
I love that. See,
So funny.
this is, I could see John Dilworth's vision being like, all right, Eustace is bald. He sees an ad for hair growth. It goes horribly wrong.
Ready, go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So any of the puns, any of the humor, the dialogue, it is all David.
It's David, and I really love
It just
it.
shines through.
It absolutely does.
Gone today, hair tomorrow.
In the Nowhere News, in this article, it says that the institute is located at 123 Testing Street. So good.
Keep it simple. You know what? Why try harder than you have to?
So as he contemplates a life with hair, Muriel asks him to fix her creaking rocking chair, but he brushes her off. And he decides to go to the institute where the product is being manufactured and go get in on the trial.
Mm-hmm.
Muriel insists that Courage go along as he's in need of a haircut. And despite not being expressly stated, this could be another example of Muriel and Eustace miscommunicating because Muriel's only hearing bits and pieces of his grumblings about hair.
That makes sense.
Eustace and Courage fire up the pickup truck, and Eustace claims that Courage looks good enough to him, seeming to imply that there will be no grooming for Courage today. Though Muriel does compliment him on it later.
Yeah. I
Again,
like how
blissfully
happy
ignorant.
Courage looks to be like going for a ride.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I'm in the
Even
car.
though it's, Eustace, it's still,
He's still going somewhere different, which is
he's
funny.
still a dog.
He's still a dog, and a lot of dogs do enjoy a good ride in the pickup truck.
Oh, a good ride for a good boy.
Instead of going to the groomer, Eustace pulls up to the institute, a rather Dr. Seuss-looking structure, which I'm immediately getting very, very bad vibes from.
I wonder if that's not something that's like instilled in us from an early age, maybe even because we grew up in religious circles.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys who didn't, let us know your take on this. But we were taught about the Tower of Babel
Oh, true, yes.
and how evil it was that man would have such audacity
How dare.
to build the tallest tower in all existence and try to reach God.
How dare.
And so the moral is that you don't,
Right.
or God's going to destroy your tower and separate all of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the explanation for all the different types of people across the world having different languages.
Right.
So these tall buildings reaching up through the clouds, you instantly have that fear of something's wrong here.
Right.
This is a place where it's experimental. it's a lab. It's all official and scientific. We talked about with the pies of like,
Right.
it would have to look official.
Mm-hmm.
This place looks legit.
It looks legit, but
And they promise you good things. But the insidious underbelly, the underside of this whole
the
thing
undertones
is that they will always push it too far. Like with the Tower of Babel.
Right.
Building a tall building isn't a bad thing. It's pushing it far enough that you want to achieve the greatness of a creator God.
Yeah.
You want to play God.
in general, a god complex is a bad thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even if that is just a metaphor from scripture, pretty cool shit. Because it's like, you know what? Don't play God.
Mm-hmm. Just
Just don't even do it.
don't put yourself on that level, I guess.
Because you're going to get struck down.
I personally have always been afraid of like medical testing. It honestly, a lot of it goes back to Batty, right? Animal
Yeah.
testing and such.
This has that same sheen.
It
Yeah,
has
you're
that
right.
same, it's all for the money and it's not really about what is happening to the humans or the humanity.
Well, because like
It's subjected to it.
they're unwitting. You go in with these promises and you become a lab rat.
Exactly.
It's like, I think we all kind of have that fear
Which is
of like,
just not right, whether it's a rat or not,
I mean, we just talked about
if
quacks.
it's harmful.
Right. We're all afraid of like giving ourselves to something that has these like totally unexpected and horrifying results.
I mean, you know me, every single side effect
Mhm.
I'm prone to have from a medication. So it's
Yeah.
it's never easy to put yourself into the hands of a drug.
And the fact that you can like sign up for like a testing a new product or like
Mhm.
test a new medication, like you
Just-
can
I mean,
agree to this.
But the thing about it is clinical trials are so necessary
They are.
for
They are.
development of medicine.
I'm not saying
So
it's bad, but
Yeah, it's just a tricky thing. And it's scary. It's scary for a young child, especially for me with all the health anxieties that I had.
I would just say
It's a scary concept.
Eustace probably isn't the kind of person who would read the fine print,
Right.
especially when he wants something so bad. He's like,
No.
screw the consequences. I'm going for it. So, yeah, just read the fine print.
Right. We advocate for awareness.
Somewhere in there, it might say that if you get too angry while using this product,
Too upset.
you can kill your loved ones.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, listener.
Oh,
We're
whoops.
getting ahead of ourselves.
Are we talking about family annihilators today? I mean,
Oh, God.
it seems kind of icky. I don't know.
Oh, God. Okay. So, in the lobby of the Institute, they see
Yes.
an older man, a character that we come to know in the series as Floyd,
Yeah.
voiced also by Mr. Dilworth.
Oh, wow.
He's graciously accepting a bottle of this infamous product from an unseen scientist behind a door, kissing it as he goes. And while they sit in the lobby, Courage and Eustace, an eerie Jody and Andy rendition of the song Beautiful Dreamer, a parlor song by Stephen Foster,
I
which
was
I'm very
wondering.
proud to say I recognized before looking it up.
I recognized the tune, the melody, but I did not know the song.
I knew the words, and I want to ask you, listener, and Christian, if you remember, did we have some kind of toy that played this song in the 90s? I have a memory of hearing
Maybe.
this song over and over. If it was like a baby doll with a crib, or like I had a toy, I swear, that played the Beautiful Dreamer melody. And so I
Could
knew
be.
it. And I don't know why I even knew it said Beautiful Dreamer. So I don't know how I knew that, but it was deep, deep, deep in my subconscious. And Jody and Andy really just played to that, which I think is so great because they somehow knew that it's just kind of in there, you know?
Yeah.
But that being said, so Stephen Foster, the man that originated the song, is often referred to as the father of American music.
Wow.
He also wrote such classics as Oh, Susanna,
Okay.
Camptown Races, which I thought was called Camptown Ladies. It's not. Swanee River, and Hard Times Come Again No More.
All right. Wow.
The sterile, impersonal vibe of the Institute, like I'm saying, gives me the worst feeling.
It's so liminal in there.
Yeah, and the lullaby does not help anything. They knew exactly what they were doing with this.
Something smells fishy, or my name's Schlinkenhopper. And it's not.
And it's not.
I appreciated
They
that.
bring Eustace to an empty, mental hospital-esque room with a Big Brother camera and ask him questions over the loudspeaker, such as, when did you lose your hair? He answered, I was born,
Yeah.
and starts to speak, but he's interrupted.
Was your father bald?
A little on the...
Was your mother bald?
Me mud.
Sister, brother, second cousin, twice removed.
This is often how those forms at the doctor's office feel.
Yes.
Aggression and all, I relate.
Mhm. I don't know where that comes from, but I know I saw something recently. I cannot remember the name of it.
It's a kind of familiar trope.
I feel like it comes from something in science fiction media, history,
Maybe
cinema.
the processing of the patient or the processing of the person in and through,
Yeah.
the system and
It's
all these
just,
questions.
more allusions to being like a lab rat.
Right.
The people behind, the mirror are watching
Who
you.
are they? Who's on the other side of the two-way mirror kind of thing?
And are they responsible for the nowhere landscape?
The last question, though, puzzles Eustace further and likely also the young viewer, such as myself, especially since I was not in any way, shape, or form a math whiz.
What's 414 divided by 6?
Christian, do you know the answer to this?
Nope.
Well, I'm glad to tell you and dear listener, the answer to this question is 69. We see you, David Stephen.
I wish
Cohen.
I just guessed
You
69.
sly dog.
Mm.
Also, in this world of cure-all promises and mysterious products, I'm reminded of a concept from our LeQuack episode, snake oil.
Yeah.
But the origin of the snake oil idea was actually pointed out to us by a listener, and I think it's a good time to sneak it in.
Hell yeah.
It turns out that snake oil did originally have healing properties, and it wasn't always synonymous with quacks and charlatans. But as with many things, Western medicine fucked it up. I'm turning to Wikipedia to lay it out for us here, but thank you again to our listener, Sally St. Rose, again, who came in clutch. But oil from Chinese water snakes has been used for centuries in Chinese traditional medicine to treat joint pain, such as arthritis and bursitis.
Wow.
And it's been suggested that the use of snake oil in the United States may have originated with Chinese railway laborers in the mid-19th century who worked long days with a lot of physical labor.
Yeah.
Chinese snake oil may have had real benefits due to its high concentration of the omega-3 fatty acid, EPA. It actually has more of that than salmon does. That's
wow.
Touted everywhere for the omega-3
Yeah.
quantity.
I intentionally eat salmon for the health benefits.
There you go.
It's also delicious. It's the steak of the sea. Of the rivers?
It's the steak.
Where does salmon come from? I don't know.
River sounds more right to me.
Ooh, buddy. Mm.
In a modern study, Arabu sea snake oil was found to significantly improve the ability of mice to learn mazes, speaking of lab rats, and also their swimming endurance over mice that were fed lard. So there's something to it, maybe. But I feel like if you're fed lard, it's not going to do anything for you.
Weigh you down.
But all that to say that there was at one time snake oil that was real, right? It had real health benefits.
Right. It wasn't always a joke. It wasn't always like a reference to, a fake remedy of some kind.
Exactly.
Those quacksalvers.
But this is where that origin came from, because later, the rattlesnake oil that was later sold by charlatans, playing at it and bastardizing the idea of snake oil as a cure, never actually contained a significant amount of snake oil or of omega-3 or really anything else helpful. It's likely that most, if not all, of the snake oil sold by Western entrepreneurs was illegitimate and never contained ingredients derived from any kind of snake.
Yeah, that's wild.
So it's the whole idea that they were selling snake oil. It wasn't even made from snakes.
I would even think that going from like whatever water snake that is to a rattlesnake is already drastically different.
Right.
Like I would just think that they just assume it's a snake, so it's got to work, right?
Yeah.
But even that's not like 1-to-1.
It's never going to be 1-to-1.
Wow.
For sure.
Of mice and water snakes, like the old saying goes.
So snake oil in the United Kingdom and the United States probably contained modified mineral oil. William Rockefeller Sr., the father of John D. Rockefeller, actually peddled snake oil.
Wow.
The fake kind.
Is that how he made his fortune?
Perhaps. Maybe that's where it began.
That's wild.
Before snake oil was the joke that it is now.
Proud to be an American.
As you briefly touched on in reference to all that quackery in the Quack episode, there were no federal regulations in the United States concerning the safety and effectiveness of drugs until the 1906 Pure Food and Drug Act. So the widespread marketing and availability of dubiously advertised patent medicines without known properties or origin persisted in the United States for a much greater number of years than in Europe. Go figure.
I'm not surprised.
Of course, in this episode, we don't have an exact example of snake oil, successful or not, because it doesn't even do or not do what is promised or described by the product, and instead does something totally unexpected.
That it does. The side effects of anything are pretty scary.
Usually, and in my experience, I've had worse times with the side effects than with the issue that I'm taking the drug to treat.
I mean, like, you can't even see a commercial for any kind of drug without being like, beware, you might shit yourself to death. Like,
I know.
This causes testicular cancer and ovarian cancer, but you know what? It might keep you from having tummy aches. So it's really worth it.
And not only that, but the United States is one of the only countries, if not the only country, that allows advertisements of prescription drugs like that.
As long as they give you all the side effects.
Mm-hmm.
Death is always there. They're like, even death.
Or death.
All these things.
As everybody smiles happily on the screen, the stock image and photography, videography that they use.
May cause migraines, heart palpitations, infertility, even death.
Even death.
Like, oh my God.
But you're going to feel great when you take it.
But that hammer toe is going to become a screw toe. I don't know.
Screwball.
What'd you call me?
While Courage panics in the waiting room to an increasingly menacing sounding beautiful dreamer and eventually frees himself to find the restroom, Eustace is put through his paces with a series of tests that seem more akin to carnival rides. High winds, drops, high speed spinning.
It's like astronaut testing.
Yeah, the works.
Like he's going to space.
And at the end of the test, he is approved for the trial, though appearing rather worse for wear, all contorted and such. That's exactly how I would look if put through all of those rides in succession now.
Yeah, no, I'd be throwing up everywhere.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I would not pass that test. I'm just going to tell you right now.
No, it would fail.
I would fail
but
so hard.
They pass anybody. I think their only really requirement is that you're bald.
True. Yeah, I don't think they would really care if we got sick.
The rest of it's just more for fun.
In the restroom, Courage sees Floyd, who's applying his new magic hair product before washing his hands, and noticing that the paper towel dispenser is empty. This fills the previously very mild-mannered Floyd with a blind, all-encompassing rage, and it's pretty off-putting to watch, not gonna lie. It's kind of like the Brave Little Toaster air conditioner scene all over again.
Yeah, it kind of is, only it works in this universe.
Only in this universe.
It makes sense here.
It projects outward, right?
But you know what? Floyd isn't wrong, though. It's the worst when your hands are soaking wet and you go
to reach for a paper towel and not have. Well, there is. That's not true. The worst thing is when there's no toilet paper.
That is a bit worse. You're correct.
But still rage-inducing all the same.
You're correct.
But from this building, slowly intensifying rage that we see, the paper towel dispenser is blown to smithereens, revealing a hole in the building where live-action clouds pass by.
That's right.
It's one of the earlier examples of their mixing mediums, I think, on the show. So this power where the thing that you're angry at spontaneously combusts would possibly be a form of what the internet calls phragokinesis, or explosion inducement.
That's cool.
This fictional, I guess, thing is defined as the ability to create and manipulate explosions of any kind and size. Of course, in this case, it doesn't seem like the instigator has a ton of control or say in the matter with the frago or the kinesis.
With either or.
And the phragokinesis to me as a student of language and words made inherent sense if it is, even still fictional.
It's kind of a beautiful word, despite what it does.
Despite what it does and what it means.
And just in time for the Oppenheimer
superpower
release coming up soon.
I know.
This is so timely.
Who knew? The timeliness of this episode.
That's funny. At first, this made me think of like pyrokinesis.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was thinking of like the fire starter story that's like Stephen King's story.
Yes.
Even Carrie.
Yep. I thought about Carrie too. Just the mention of any type of like power that someone has that they don't quite understand or know how to control.
It's become a ubiquitous thing to have like fear or trauma or horror based telepathy or whatever, telekinesis.
Powers.
But this specifically is against your will, blowing something
coming
up.
Just from this product that you've put on your skin.
This aspect of this episode made me think of MK Ultra.
Sure.
The sterile nature of these like secret, illegal human experiments that many, many unwitting people were subjected to. Like a lot of people, it wasn't just MK Ultra. There were a lot of American government experiments and U.S. military experiments.
I'm getting Stranger Things vibes.
All that is directly what inspired Stranger Things with the Hawkins lab and how they were doing all these tests on these children who may or may not possess these telekinetic powers, these psychic powers.
The predisposition for certain things, yeah.
And
trying to like enhance them, I guess. That's what I always thought of it as.
Yeah, for sure.
With MK Ultra though, weren't they like, they were trying to develop drugs for interrogation?
Their main focus was, yes, using drugs and other types of psychological torture. And it was all for the purposes of interrogation, like you said, and like brainwashing.
The CIA.
This
like
was the CIA.
legitimately the CIA, not just like some underground,
no.
let's figure this out.
I mean, it
type
was underground.
Rogue science.
It was
Well, it was
secret.
underground. But it wasn't like a rogue scientist doing some sort of human experimentation. It was the CIA.
It was the CIA.
That's so crazy to me.
There were other branches that did specifically try to harness mind powers, weird pockets of history.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of like meshed together in that Cold War era of American history.
You gotta love the 60s.
Like one real life experiment, like to give an example of the trauma that can come from this, is Ted Kaczynski. He was experimented on at Harvard. And he became the Unabomber.
I don't even think I remembered that. I've definitely seen documentaries. I should remember that.
If I remember correctly, it was just him signing up for a psychological experiment at school, and it turned into hours of psychological abuse and torture.
Oh my God. It's tricky because, like, obviously, me being a student of like psychology, sociology, especially, I love all of that stuff. I love the science of it. And I recognize that sometimes there is, you know, the necessity for, not to say psychological experiments. Obviously, abuse is not okay.
Never.
The abuse of it is where there's a line, obviously.
Right.
But human behavior and studying human behavior in different scenarios has brought us a lot of important science and facts about mental illness and mental health in general. So there's definitely just a line.
There's definitely a line
that you have to walk.
Yeah, but when it comes to like an experiment, they say just having the experiment at all already changes the behavior of the subjects.
True.
So it's really, really hard to get an accurate.
Yeah. When it comes to human behavior, it's very hard to get that like clean slate that you need.
Yeah.
Unless the participant is unaware, which is, I think,
which is where they're
the
coming
abuse
from.
starts to creep in. Exactly.
And this is why probably hundreds of people, if not more, were drugged without their own knowledge or consent.
Right.
Just to see what would happen. Like, I mean, they literally invented acid and gave it to people just to see what would happen.
Just to see.
Phragokinesis. All right. That's pretty crazy.
It's pretty dark too.
Pretty dark, especially because you can use it to murder your whole family.
So Courage watches from the adjacent toilet, absolutely terrified. And in the explosion, the bottle of product rolls over toward him where he catches a glimpse of the warning label.
Warning, when using, do not get angry, do not get mad, do not get upset, or else...
There's not a single Mott man in my lineage that should have ever used this product.
Well, did they have to? They're not bald.
No, I don't think baldness...
That's good. That's a good thing.
I don't really know. Angry, that I know.
You know the anger
The
part
anger
of it.
issues, absolutely.
So Courage sprints down a liminal checkered hallway in search of Eustace, but he's too late. Eustace has already been presented with his own bottle of the product. Courage does his charades, appearing as a very convincing Atomic Floyd, to no avail. And Eustace is only worried about how he got off his leash.
I was going to say,
dragging him
no,
back to the car.
This is the second instance where you are Courage, or Courage is you, because he does the whole charade, and then Eustace is like,
How'd you get off your leash?
Yep.
and then Courage, like you would do, goes, fine, okay, puts the collar on, and then continues to try to
Now will you
convince
listen to me?
Just
Let
like
me solve the issue that you're presenting so that I can present my issue.
just the flabbergastedness, the frustration that you feel in situations where people are not listening to you,
yes.
where you're
Yes.
like, fine, you want the fucking leash?
You got the leash.
You want the collar around my neck? I'll do it. By golly, I'll do it. And then you're going to listen to me.
You've got to listen to me anyway.
If that's what helps you open your goddamn ears so you can hear me, then I'll do it.
Yeah, I do love Courage in that moment. I did find him rather relatable
it's
throughout
so-
this whole episode.
It's so endearing.
Both segments.
I love how he just gave it.
Yeah,
He's like, fine.
put on the damn
okay,
leash.
I'll put on the damn
But
leash.
let's talk about my thing now.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so relatable.
So on the way home, after Eustace applies some of the product, they're cut off by a dude in a convertible who I thought for a second when I was watching was going to flip him off because he
Gives
just
him the fist.
extends his fist to the camera.
Watch where you're going, you fool!
I think that was the intent.
I think so too.
You fool.
We come to know this character as Dai Lung, a recurring antagonist in this series, voiced by Tim Chi Lai, one of Courage's animators and graphic designers.
All right.
John Dilworth did an interview where he talked about including Tim in the show, and he just loved the way that Tim like presented all of his lines, and
That's
he
cool.
literally
Yeah.
kind of wrote the character around him, which I
This
think
is one of the like
cool.
extraneous characters that I remember very well.
Sure, yeah. He appears multiple many times.
He pops up, yeah.
His name can actually be seen, Tim's name can be seen on the license plate of Dylong's car, too, as he speeds off. Speeds off to his demise, we see, because he explodes a couple of miles away after this established building rage occurs in Eustace. And honestly, I think Eustace would have had the right of way in this scenario anyway.
Oh, totally.
So
no.
I can't really blame him for getting heated about that. I would 100% be angry about that.
I'd have gotten mad too. Mm-hmm.
But of course, the product amps up that anger and turns it deadly. Yeah. As if Courage needed more reason to be afraid of Eustace.
Because he's like, it's only a matter of time before he gets super pissed at me or Muriel.
At Muriel. And then it's all going to come crashing
and
down.
Then murders us.
So back at home, Eustace is doing perhaps the only thing we've ever seen him do for Muriel. He's trying to fix her rocking chair.
Quite calmly.
But of course, not until he's been asked multiple times.
Yeah.
And applied some more of his anger juice.
Eustace, could you fix this dreadful squeak?
Oh, yeah, all right.
I relate to Muriel here too, because any sound like that, oh boy.
It's a
I
lot.
cannot stand it.
I mean, it's bothersome.
Oh, it bothers me so much. So Eustace hammers away while Muriel sits in the chair, but Courage visualizes an exploding Muriel, of course, and brings his food bowl as a distraction to get her out of harm's way. Which, I mean, we've all had a dog that brings their food bowl to us, or, you know, my cats will just dig in their food bowl if it's empty, alerting us to that. And of course, she gets up and obliges Courage, and Eustace becomes frustrated with the repair. As his anger is building, the ringing of the telephone is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and it gets just zapped to oblivion.
Something's got to, because what would Muriel do without her rocking chair?
Yeah, I know. I hope that it's not the rocking chair that he destroys, because that is her prized possession. But honestly, when you really think about it, the way that we think about things on That's Pretty Dark, these scenes are sort of heartbreaking, because Courage is desperately trying to keep Muriel at a safe distance from Eustace's outbursts. And it feels like maybe, just maybe, this has an undercurrent of inspiration from that feeling of knowing that any little annoyance or disagreement could set off your abusive or reactive parent or caregiver.
Yep, it's the hyper-vigilance.
And yes, the hyper-vigilance of knowing that the snap could come at any time, and that feeling of complete doom and terror when it would inevitably come. The feeling of walking on eggshells all the time.
Yep.
And what's more, the feeling that you need to protect other loved ones from their wrath.
Yeah.
I see a lot of underlying trauma here.
Becomes that responsibility of the child to protect the other parents.
The other parents,
yada, yada, yada.
the siblings.
The one who's in denial, or
right, exactly, yeah. The one who's in denial.
Dismissal of the actual emotional abuse that's occurring.
Outburst, anger.
Yeah.
Yes. It's pretty dark. I mean, it's a dark place to take it, but you can't help but see that in it when you're looking at it from an adult's perspective, you know?
I think that's exactly what they were going for. Yeah, it's that threat of domestic violence that Dilly talked about.
Yeah, you just never know when it's going to come.
Eustace?
In the kitchen, Muriel tries unsuccessfully to open what she calls a can of dog food, but it looks like a jar to me. Whatever, it has a lid.
Eustace, could you get this darn can open?
Yeah, all right.
It looks like a ice cream container from like Ben
like
and
a pint,
Jerry's.
yeah.
Yeah, like a pint.
But she can't open it, so she calls to Eustace for help.
Buddy boy.
And this causes Courage's whole plan to backfire. So that's even worse to me, when the thing that you did to try and correct or save the person in the situation creates even more danger.
Yeah.
Eustace is unable to open the jar, and we see that rage start to build. And I've definitely felt this way about jars I can't open before. Not gonna lie, I've probably turned just as red. That's one thing that irks me as well, is just because sometimes I'm like, I just can't I can't open this, and I need to. Like, it's aggravating. So knowing that he's the cause of this new potential outburst, Muriel is saved by the doorbell because Courage thinks on his feet and goes outside to ring it and presents her with the mail from the mailbox.
Saved by the bell.
I can't help but think that feels like such a I've been there, done that kind of paradigm. Like, that's something that you have to have been in that situation to think of doing, almost. The saved by the bell. It feels very real to me in a weird way.
Yeah.
The whole kitchen basically explodes then, seeming to indicate that the more the product is used, the more the radius of the blast builds. And Eustace brings the singed can to an oblivious Muriel, who doesn't re-enter the kitchen that's gone now, and she doesn't see that because she doesn't go back inside. She instead takes up her sewing again in her rocking chair.
You still haven't fixed the chair.
But here she realizes that the chair is still creaking and begins to lovingly chide Eustace about fixing it once more, claiming,
I know you can fix it if you try.
I don't know. At that point, I'm like, Muriel, you got to stop.
yeah.
Like,
I'm like, watch out, Muriel. Watch.
It's
no,
bothering
I don't
me.
think she's doing anything wrong. It's not her fault.
It's
I'm
not her fault, but,
victim
like-
blaming here. But if she noticed what was going on,
if she could, yeah.
she would at least be able to prevent Courage's fear in this scenario by not.
It just comes a point where harping on something is just like, you know what? You got to chill. You're going to have to stop because I need a minute, okay?
I'm going to need a minute.
I'm going to need to leave the room and come back. I mean, that's on him, but
Sure.
it's also like
But
Muriel.
he obviously doesn't do that because he doesn't know how to manage his feelings either.
No.
Courage, throughout this, is doing everything he can think of to keep Eustace calm, from rubbing his feet to fanning him with a palm leaf to playing the harp. And this just further confirms that
Stay
underlying trauma
calm.
to me.
Yeah.
And if you relate to this from your childhood, I'm really sorry, because we aren't responsible for the emotions of other people, least of all children and their caregivers.
Right.
And a parent's mood, though I know it very often does, should not ever dictate the entire emotional climate of the house. Not if the person is dealing with their own emotions in a responsible way.
Well, if you can't fix the chair, could you at least thread my needle?
One of the most frustrating things you can
This is a rage-inducing task, I can attest.
Oh, it's terrible.
Even with better eyesight than Muriel has. This task frustrates even the most calm, I feel like, of individuals. So why ask Eustace this? But who else would she ask? Courage, maybe? I guess she doesn't think Courage is capable. She hasn't seen all the things he can do.
She doesn't know.
She doesn't know. As we expect by this point, the rage begins to build in Eustace again. Courage snatches Muriel up, complete with her rocker, and makes a run for it, but can't get through the door because, of course, the grandfather clock has fallen over in front of it, and I'm not sure what prevents him from going through the wall like he so often does.
Well, now he's holding an old lady.
Now he's holding a lady in a rocker.
It's harder.
But the building, threatening rage is only interrupted by a singular curly red hair appearing on Eustace's head.
This is one of those things I remember so well.
Really?
From being a kid.
Yeah.
That single curly red hair.
Boing.
Bink.
However, upon inspection, the curl droops down. And for some reason, this angers Eustace again, because apparently he wanted curly hair. I don't know. He wanted to look like Bozo.
Yeah, I
Not
guess.
that you look like Bozo if you have curly red hair. I'm just making a joke.
Sorry, all you.
I love curly red hair personally. I wish my hair was red. It would
Well,
make my
yeah.
curls a little more
Yeah,
acceptable.
walk that back. Walk it back.
Walking back. So Courage and Muriel burst through the window just as the rage reaches a fever pitch, and the whole house comes down when, I guess because the thing that he's angry at is on his head, it seems like Eustace himself explodes this time.
Yeah, we don't see him again from
Yeah,
after
we
this.
don't see him again, so that's what I conclude. But in the aftermath, Muriel and Courage are rocking in her chair, and the ever oblivious Muriel. How many times have I used the word oblivious today?
An oblivious amount.
An oblivious amount. Tells Courage.
Courage, remind me to tell Eustace, whenever that man gets back, to fix this chair.
Muriel, you gotta stop with the chair.
I don't think she remembers that she said it is the thing. I think she genuinely is forgetting that she says it when she says it.
You're probably not wrong. Jeez.
She doesn't seem to care that her house is gone.
She doesn't even know. She's not even aware of it.
But like you were talking about with the tree in...
The tree in LeQuac.
Things respawn. It's like a video game.
They kind of reset.
They just, the world resets and we continue on in nowhere. And I really wish real houses worked like
Oh,
that.
Lord. I wish my AC could just, reset whenever. But like, yeah, because Eustace often is sort of given to the mercy of the episode construct.
Right.
Like he's always sort of like lost to
Whatever creature or concept has been introduced, yeah.
But then next episode, he's back like normal.
As if nothing ever happened.
That is an interesting aspect of this universe.
But then again, that's how a lot of dysfunctional families operate, is that they explode or have terrible conflict or a terrible trauma happen, and then they just pretend it never happened.
Pretend like nothing happened. Yeah. And like you were saying, the scope of the explosion seems to get larger every time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that too with explosive outbursts,
Yeah.
explosive behavior, and like
It builds and
emotional,
builds.
physical, verbal violence.
Yep.
You kind of do start
It
small.
escalates.
and then it
True.
escalates because
true.
you, as the abuser, you learn what you can get away with.
Yeah.
So you push the boundary every time. And it's odd 'cause at the same time, the victim in the scenario is also acclimating to that environment.
Right.
It's easy to forgive a step over the line versus leaps and bounds
Sure.
over the line.
And if it's steps and steps and steps that lead to that space.
And if the line keeps getting pushed further and further and further,
Right.
yeah, eventually you're in no man's land. You're somewhere that you never intended to be.
That's how it happens most of the time. Exactly.
Yeah. And neither of you even know how you got there, but here you are, and it's terrible.
Mm.
And that's kind of where Eustace and Muriel live.
Yeah, that's exactly where they live.
This lifetime of marriage, however long they've been married.
Yep. She just takes it and takes it. and
She's
he
just taking it
dishes
forever.
and dishes it.
And now Courage is just there living amongst this going, what the hell? How am I going to stop that?
How am I supposed to? Yeah.
To him, like we
And
see
feeling,
it.
and then feeling like it's his responsibility when it isn't.
Yeah, he sees it. We can see it because it is foreign. It isn't normal.
No.
That's not how things should be.
Nope.
And yet they are.
Far too many cases. So, on that incredibly heavy and really triggering note, should we transition to our scareometer?
Oh, let's start the music.
Scareometer time.
Scarometer.
Scareometer. How scared were you?
We need someone to illustrate us a scarometer.
Oh, that'd be great.
Show us what it
I
looks
love
like
that.
to you.
That'd be some dope merch, I will say.
This is one of those where the episode isn't necessarily scary, but the concept is very scary.
Agreed.
The whole domestic violence, the overt violence
Yes.
and the potential for family annihilation
Yeah.
pushes it up into a 7 or an 8 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I'll live somewhere in there. 6 or 7, 8, something like that.
Okay, that's fair. I said 6.
Okay.
For that same exact reason, the episode really isn't scary to watch necessarily. The visuals
Right.
aren't that bad compared to
It's
others.
not hard to watch.
But the
Yeah.
fear of the angry outbursts and abuse is pretty dark.
Mm-hmm.
Solidly.
I just know what that feels like. So that's kind of where
Definitely. Yeah.
my personal trepidation,
Mhm.
my triggeredness from this
Yes.
episode.
Absolutely. And that's fair because it's pretty overt that that's what they're getting at with it.
Yeah.
This episode also reminded me of a quote that I'd like to leave you all with. I'd always heard that this quote was attributed to Maya Angelou.
Yeah.
And it turns out that it might not have been Maya Angelou at all, but an unnamed person in a 1991 quote compilation book by H. Jackson Brown Jr.
All right.
Thanks, quote investigator. That's a place you can go online. Learned that this week. But either way, I think the quote is quite true, and I'll just leave you with it.
Yeah.
The quote is, I've learned that you can tell a great deal about a person by the way they handled these 3 things. A rainy day, lost luggage, and tangled Christmas tree lights.
Wow, that hits home.
I would always prefer to be around people who can take these small annoyances like this in stride. It's the way that I try, at least externally, to do myself. And I think we could all do a little better in that regard and make life a little more enjoyable, or maybe a little less miserable for ourselves and those around us.
Yeah. I won't even ask you how you judge me based off of those 3 things. I'm just going
I feel no, because I
pretend
think that we've certainly done we've untangled things together. You don't get inordinately mad at those things.
any major thing, I'm as cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
But weirdly, I even out and I can just deal.
Right.
Because I'm almost this is absurd.
That's
I
me
just
too.
I just
start to
appreciate
laugh.
absurdity. Yeah, I begin to
Same.
laugh. This
I
is
start
so
to laugh
stupid.
when it gets really out of hand like that with the big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I say I'm good in a crisis. I'm good in a non-life-threatening crisis.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to think about how I am in a life-threatening crisis. But typically, at work or something, people will say, Kaylin, you're so cool under pressure and stuff. And I'm like, that's because I've already imagined every possible terrible scenario. And so the fact that one of them is happening is not surprising to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been here already in my head. So
Mm-hmm. I'm right there with you.
yeah, I get mad in my head, but not at people, if that makes sense. Something that really bothers me that I found recently is an ADHD thing, and I didn't know. But I'll be having a morning where I'm just like I hit the door frame and I hit this and I can't get out the door and I stub my toe and I'm just like in my own way.
Yeah.
That will build up a lot, and that happens to me a lot in the morning time.
So you just get mad at yourself.
I'm not a morning person, so I get so mad at myself, and then I'm like finally chilling out, right? I'm calm. I've done my commute. I've listened to my music or my podcast or whatever I'm listening to on the way to work, and I'm like, okay, take a deep breath. I'm going to go in and deal with people, and it's going to be fine. And then I go to get out of my car, and my bag hangs up on the gear shift or something, and it yanks me back into the car.
You're already bad at getting out of cars anyway, so like,
yeah, exactly. That's already a thing that I.
That's one of the first things you told me when we ever went anywhere together. You were like, by the way, it takes me a few minutes to get out of any vehicle ever. So like, when you're waiting on me and I'm still trying to get out of the car, don't get mad.
Yep. That I literally think I did. I think I gave like a preface.
The spiel, yeah.
Disclaimer. This is how I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm already bad at getting out of cars, but when that happens and my bag yanks me back into the car,
fair.
I've thought many 4-letter words. There have been days when I have literally sat in my car for another 5 minutes being like, I think I just want to go home. I don't do it, but I have to allow myself that fantasy for a moment.
That's so funny.
Oh, mercy. So yeah, that is Hothead.
Wow.
And now we've wrapped up Season 1, Episode 3 of Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Wow, we're getting through it at a snail's pace. You know, like it's taking... Well, here's the thing. We've covered 6 episodes.
Right. We've done 6. Yeah, we've done multiple
segments.
6 segments. And also we've done Courage intro. And, you know, we've been talking about Courage for quite a while. It's just that we
did 2 of the intro and 2 of the interview.
Right. So we've been talking about Courage.
We've been here for a while.
6 months, but
we sure have.
We've also been doing a lot of other fun stuff in the meantime, too. Listener, if you're only here for our Courage episodes, I would encourage you to go listen to the others because they're fun, too.
You would encourage.
I would encourage you to do that.
I think I could thread a needle really fast. I think I could.
Do you?
I could work on fixing a rocking chair. But yeah, the jar would piss me off.
Fair.
I would be so mad about that.
Yeah, no, the needle is the worst for me.
Hitting it against the counter, running the hot water.
Yeah, I've done all those
whatever.
things. I actually have one of those things from Amazon that my friend literally got me one of those things that open jars for you because of this issue. You just press a button.
Oh, it just does the thing?
Yeah, it just has to be on right. Like it has to be tight enough to do it.
That's what she said.
There's some jars I haven't found success with, but hey, can't win them all.
No, you sure can't. Sure can't.
Oh, listener, have you had a good time with us today? We hope so.
You can't get automatic jar openers. Next thing you know, AI is going to be stealing all of our jobs.
Man.
And if I can't open a jar, then what good am I? You know what I'm saying?
What good is anybody, really?
We're just one step closer to Wall-E existence.
Wall-E world, as they say. So, listener, if you would like to hear more from us, please feel free. Find us on social media. You can contact us at that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com.
Absolutely.
If you want to get in touch, tell us your own stories. Tell us what you're frustrated by and how you deal with the tangled Christmas lights.
How do you guys handle it?
And we have our Patreon.
Yeah, we do.
Patreon.com/TPD podcast.
And speaking of that, we want to say thanks to our new patron, Rachel W.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Thanks for being here.
So many thanks to you.
We appreciate you.
Honestly. And if you yourself want access to some pretty dark bonus content and hear your name on our next episode, you can also give $5 a month.
That's right.
Just $5.
Very easy way. Get yourself a shout out.
You can say thanks and we'll say thanks back.
And it'll just be an endless loop.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Just how I like it in my people-pleasingest life.
No, thank you.
We are slogging through the process of creating merch that we've been talking about for a year.
And it looks pretty cool, I'm not going to lie. I'm excited.
I'm pretty excited about what we have going on with the promise of, more to come. The first release that we do will be
the first round.
Pretty basic, but I think we'll build on that, and I'm excited for that too. People have asked for that, so I think that's really what's making me excited, is that we can get some things into y'all's hands and let you rep your status as a Darkling, which I think is fun.
Got to. Otherwise, how will people know that you listen to us?
How will people know? You got to tell them.
You got to tell them. Good job. Good research. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks.
I was not prepared to record tonight, but you got us there. So
I got us there.
You made it happen.
You got to get there one way or another. That's what I always say.
Again, that's what she said.
We'll see you again next time.
Thanks for hanging out, guys.
As soon as we can possibly get back into your ears. And until then, please come and find us on the interweb.
Yeah, and say hey. We love hearing from you guys.
And enter that giveaway if you're listening prior to to July 21st.
Because somebody has to win.
Right.
It might as well be you.
And it easily could be.
Until next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to That's Pretty Dark. Written and produced by Christian Baxter Mott and Kaylin Andrews.
Our music is composed by Jonathan Simmons, and our art is provided by Paige Garland at Power Girl Illustration.
Join the collective nostalgia and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at That's Pretty Dark Podcast.
Share your experiences and let us know what shows, films, or villains still haunt you from childhood at that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, you're never really alone.
So, until next time, sweet dreams, everyone.